All right, what's up, everyone? Time for our weekly Q&A. Been a crazy week here. Busy as all hell. Economy's opening back up slowly, painfully slowly, but surely. And now is the time to be putting into action all the things that you learned in the last couple of months. I advise you to get stronger, get educated, get yourself straight skill-wise, because when this thing opens up, it's going to open up with a bang. So let's get right to it here. I want to go right to the questions. I got to cut this one a little short today here because I have someone, my girlfriend is sick. So it's been a rough week here. So I got to jam some stuff together here to make everything work. So let's rock and roll. Let's get right to it. Who's the first person on the hit parade? Aaron, what's up, buddy?
Hi, this is Aaron. One moment, sorry. I have to start my video. Hello
How
from Germany. Thanks, I'm fine. And you?
Doing good. Where in Germany are
you? In Germany, in the south west, in Baden-Württemberg. The town is called Schwäbisch Hall.
Okay.
Near Stuttgart.
Great. And Porsche factory, right? In Stuttgart. That's Porsche,
yeah,
right?
Yeah. It's not so far. Cool.
Excellent.
Yeah, thanks for having me here. I have a question, and I want to ask you that in which ways are you recommend prospecting in social media? I'm in the digital advertising industry, Facebook ads, Google ads, stuff like that. But we want to reach our goals through prospecting too, and we want to get leads through prospecting in social media like LinkedIn, Instagram, and stuff like that.
What kind of business are you in?
Sorry?
What kind of business are you in?
In the digital advertising industry, marketing agency.
Okay, so who are you going after though? Like who are you trying to attract? Like who are you, because listen to me, I believe that, listen, I'm a big believer in the online advertising space. I do it myself. I spend a lot of money. I built a huge business doing that. That being said, you know, you have to know what you're doing, but just remember this. I'm not quite sure what you're asking, but I think what you're asking is like, you know, how does prospecting relate to lead gen? Because like what happens is that you have all these different sources of places you could potentially get leads. You can get leads on Google, you can get leads on social media, you get leads on LinkedIn, right? But the question is then what do you do with those leads once they come into your funnel? And the idea is that you want to figure out a way to sift through those leads as quickly and elegantly as possible, and then make presentations to the ones that might need your services and get rid of the ones that don't. So the biggest mistake I see people make is that when they advertise online, they spend a heck of a lot of time talking to people who really aren't right for their service. No matter how targeted your marketing is, it's not going to be on target 100% of the time. With prospecting, the goal is to take the leads that you get from those various places and then sift through them by speaking to people and finding the ones that are right for your service and then getting rid of the ones who aren't right. So remember this, and no matter how targeted your market is, your marketing is, you're going to get four types of buyers. There's four classes, right? The first class of buyers are called buyers in heat. And those are like and it's just a label I use, right? And what those are basically is the buyers that are most anxious, like right now, there's urgency, they're feeling pain, they know if they need your product, they want your product, they can afford your product, and they want it now. They're ready to buy now, right? That's buyers in power. Those are buyers in heat. Those are your best buyers of all. Next group is called buyers in power. Now, those are people who need your product, who want your product, who can afford your product. The only difference is they're not quite ready to buy today. Maybe they will. I mean, if the right opportunity, the perfect deal presents itself, yes, they'll buy. But they're not like feeling pain. So there's not like they have an urge, like there's something happening. You get it? So they're not quite as anxious. They're going to buy when they get around to it. Versus the buyers in heat are like, I got a problem. I got to fix it right now. That's the difference. But those two groups are both really good groups of buyers. Then you have the other two groups, which are not worth calling back. Those are what I call your looky-loos, the people who pretend to be interested, but really just no interested in buying. They just look tire kickers or window shoppers. And then lastly are the mistakes, the people who clicked on your website, answered an ad, got there. They don't really even, they didn't even want to be there. They just somehow, they opted into the wrong site basically, right? And the problem is that what I see happening all the time is inexperienced salespeople spending a lot of time trying to turn those last two groups into buyers. And that's not what you should be doing. You want to get rid of those people and be focusing on the ones who actually need your product, want your product, and can afford your product. All right? So the idea of prospecting is to basically use all the things that you probably already know, the online world. You bring those clients in, and then you use sales to sift through them and find the ones that are potentially right to buy and close them. Does that make sense?
Makes sense. Can I ask one short question?
Sure.
Thank you, Jordan. Do you recommend to build a relationship through texting with them, like in LinkedIn, or get them as fast as we can to the phone and build a relationship, get an intelligence?
Both. In other words, what I very effective, something when I really dig in with a company, it's like, you have a sort of it's an expression in basketball, four corners defense. Like, it's an all things at once. You want to be texting them, emailing them, you understand? Like be posting to them. The more times they see you and the more times they hear your name, the more times they get a text, up to a point where it's just like, beyond annoying. But the point is, you want to be the guy. If you recall, I sent you a text. You responded. I emailed you last week. You want to be that guy where they see it, because eventually, third, fourth, fifth time, it's going to have an impact. And when you call them, you already have more credibility. They might have clicked on your site. They see that you're real. So yes, definitely.
Cool. Great advice.
All right, but don't just do that. You want to do all of it. Okay.
Okay.
All right, buddy. Thanks.
Thank you, Jordan. Thanks.
My pleasure.
My pleasure.
Next question, Brian Como. Brian Como, what's up, buddy?
Hey, how you doing?
Wonderful. How are you?
Doing well. Okay. So my question for you is, I'm going through straight line marketing right now.
Where are you? Where are you from?
Louisiana.
What's that? Louisiana. I love that. I fucking love that accent. All right. I love that. That's it. Okay. Let's hear it.
National champions, baby.
Let's hear it.
So I'm doing straight line marketing right now, and I wanted to know, it seemed like the straight line marketing may have come out maybe a few years ago. Just wondering if there's anything relevant you think that you would add to that, or if you think it's pretty good to go as is.
Let me have a very frank conversation with you. The only problem with marketing courses versus sales courses, like what I teach with selling, and literally, I always adapt it and add to, but it's changed very little over 30 years, because selling is a very, when remember this, let me just go back a step, because there's a very important point you're making here. There's a difference between sales and marketing. They're not, marketing is the process of going out there, identifying who your best buyers are. So it's like, first even I think, who should I be marketing to? That's step one. Who are my best buyers? And then coming up with a variety of strategies, or it could just be one, but how do I reach those people in a cost-effective manner and bring them into my sales funnel, right? Once they're there, that's when sales takes over, and sales is when you actually close them either by phone, in person. Now, in some cases, marketing has a call of action attached, and you can combine some sales into marketing, right? The problem with that, it's not a problem, just the reality is there's only so far you can get typically in terms of how much money you can get from someone and how much value you can provide them without picking up a phone or meeting someone and having a human interaction. As good as sales funnels can be, and I've perfected my own funnels and all, at a certain point to get the real money and deliver the real value, you gotta speak to someone or see them, right? Exactly, right? Ironically, the rules of that latter part have changed very, very little in the last 30 years because, in fact, the straight line was devised as a distance selling system that you could call someone anywhere, and when you have a Zoom, it's even better. The marketing stuff constantly changes. It constantly changes. What remains the same are the core principles about identifying your best buyers, message to market match. That stuff hasn't changed. Like the fundamental principles, like if you watch did you ever watch the TV series Mad Men?
Yes.
It's a great series, right? Like the same things they talked about in the 50s that, why people, like certain ads, what you're trying to accomplish, the emotional connection, the styles, right? All of that still applies. What changes, though, is how you actually do targeting on Facebook and certain ways that you can go out and buy ads and testing. That is changing week to week, certainly month to month, and even more so year to year, right? So the basic fundamentals of when that course was created are all the same. What has changed and will continue to change are the nuances of how people are going at it's like a cat and mouse game. It's like you're always trying to cheat the algorithm on Facebook, and the algorithm is trying to catch you. So you know what I mean? So it used to be, there's been these these watershed moments in online history where they, I think they called it the Google snap, where all of a sudden Google changed their algorithm and they wiped everybody off of all these companies that were getting massive traffic through Google, wiped out, right? Then they had the Facebook snap, the snap like Thanos, the snap. But one day, all of a sudden, I remember a company called the Elite Daily, which this company was just worth like $150 million, was zero because Facebook changed their algorithm in one day, and all of a sudden they had no more reach, So what's really happening right now with Facebook is that, and again, it's going to change again in a few months, I'm sure, is that, they are always trying to come up with this balance of, okay, we're a social network. We want to keep people on the platform. So any ad that causes someone to leave the platform is a negative for us. And ads that keep people on the platform are a positive for us, right? So one of the things lately that I've actually, if I go back a few years ago, the strategies I used were a little bit different. So right now, one of the better strategies is going out with content out there that actually does not result in the person clicking on a site and going to a landing page. Because when you do that, Facebook charges you 10 times as much for something that would allow someone to opt in, stay on Facebook, and move on. In other words, because that person's worth more, you understand that Facebook will give you a much better deal for that sort of traffic than for the guy who clicks and leaves off. So what we do typically is we combine both sorts of advertising. It's more advertising that allows us to reach a very content-heavy advertising that does not cause the person to leave Facebook. And that is very cheap, and we can go wide. Then we use those people, and depending on how much of our ad they read or how much of the video they watched, we would then retarget those people with Facebook ads on the retargeting side, right? So those are the sorts of things that are changing every single month, all right? But the underlying principles of creating ads that convert, of identifying your target buyers, those things are very constant. That make sense?
Yeah, it does. Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
My pleasure, buddy. And I guess the end result is you got to keep up with the latest stuff always. Always keep reading. There's a lot of really good Facebook groups that focus on marketing. So again, I don't pretend to be. I don't keep up with the latest stuff because I have people that work at my company.
Yeah.
It's such a specific field. Like for example, I have one guy that does all my Facebook stuff, and another guy that does my YouTube stuff. They're different. Another guy does my LinkedIn stuff, and another guy. So it's very specialized. just make sure that either you have someone that you really, if you don't, let me know, send an email, I'll give you my recommendations. It wouldn't be me because I outsource some of that stuff myself because I'm just so busy with my own company. All right?
Okay, thank you, Jordan. I appreciate it.
You got it, pal. Next question. Andre Jackson. Great name. What's up, Andre?
Hey, JB. Thanks for your time, man. Can you see me?
Got it, pal. I can't, but I got a picture of you in my mind's eye.
That's fine. Okay.
And you look just like I fucking knew this. By the way, how are you? The guy, no. The reason I know an Andre Jackson, but he actually you're about 50 pounds lighter than him. But I know somebody Andre Jackson. He kind of looks like he's 50 pounds lighter.
It's amazing, man. So the question is, I understand when looping, you have to pace, lead, right? And my question is that when you get a prospect to a certain level of certainty, so let's say like you bring them to that 10, right, on that first pattern, do you give them more information after that, or do you go into the pattern of you're introducing yourself? Because I know if they're at a 10, that'd be a good time to close them. But if you're trying
remember this, okay, yeah, okay, good. Let me good question, really good question. So let's go back a step, all right? The whole basis of looping and the back half of the straight line, it has to do with the fact that certainty wanes. That certainty is not a constant. So if you're, let's say you're selling someone solar. I'm just going to use solar because I seem to be getting a lot of solar lately. Solar is the buzzword of the day, right? So you're selling someone a solar system, and you're in their home where you're on the phone, same thing, and you give them this really amazing pitch, right? And you really do a great job explaining it. And by the time you're done explaining it, and let's say it's now 2:20 in the afternoon, right? Mm-hmm. And then you ask for the order, and they say, "Let me think about it." Now let's say when you asked them for the order, they were at an 8 on the certainty scale, right? Mm-hmm. And they're at 8. At 2:22, 2 minutes later, they're at a 7.5.
Right.
And 3 minutes later, they're at a 7. And 5 minutes, so, certainty, it's like someone's really, really sure of something. And then like within almost instantly, the seeds of doubt start to creep in and say, well, maybe, I don't know. Like, you understand? So it's certainty is not a constant. It's constantly, it's like, you're almost fighting this battle of you're trying to always increase certainty while there's a natural decay. So you're trying to keep raising as it's naturally decay, right? So what happens is with looping, okay, is remember, looping is the process by which you take one of the common objections and you use it as an opportunity to build more certainty for each of the 3 tens, and then you transition into a close without breaking rapport. That's what looping is. So when someone says, let me think about it, and then you use it as an opportunity to loop back to, let's say when you asked for the order the first time, they were at a 7 on the certainty scale, right? Now you're going to give them your first pattern. You say, well, let me say this. The true beauty is X, Y, Z, X, Y, Z, X, Y, Z. And now you go through a pattern, the goal of which is to take them from a 7 to as close to a 10 as possible.
Right.
That's the purpose of that pattern, that first pattern, on a logical basis, to make them really, really certain. So when you're done with that pattern, and you say, you see what I'm saying? Does that make sense to you? They're like, oh, no, yeah, it's amazing. It's great, right? And you say, exactly, it really is a great idea. Now, in the first loop, I also know that they probably don't know me. They don't trust me. So I'll say, exactly. I said, let me ask you another question. If I've been, working with you for the last 3 or 4 years, let's say I sold you 2 or 3 other systems, whether I've been, installed your air conditioner, whatever it might be. And it was like just the greatest thing ever. You saved money. You probably wouldn't be saying, let me think about it right now. And I'm going to go into that second 10. And I start so I'm going to be reselling myself. And I'll say, and by the way, as far as my company goes, and I'll talk about my company. I'm going fast here, right? But the point is I'm going to hit all 3 tens. So I use the objection as a way to resell the product. I then resold myself. I then resold the company that stands behind the product. So I get 10, 10, 10, and I'll say, why don't we do this? Let's get started. I'll ask for the order again, right? So now I asked for the order now a second time, right? And let's say they start off by saying, let me think about it. And now they're like, okay, great. Yeah, it sounds like, can I just call you back in 15 minutes? Now they hop to a new objection, right? So what do I do next? What would I do next? I have to loop back now, and in my mind, even though, let's say they were really certain about that first 10 now, because remember, I already did one pattern I get my opening pitch, and then I reinforced it with a pattern that really created certainty for the first 10, right?
Right.
And then I did the second and third, and I asked, but it still didn't get me the result. So when I loop back now, I'm going to actually still go back to the first 10 again. I'm going to have a third pattern, but I want to make sure, because I know that first 10, their certainty was already decaying. As I'm moving on to the second 10, they're already first 10. It's like I'm fighting this battle of decaying certainty always. I'm always fighting a battle against decaying certainty. So when I move on to the second 10, the first 10's going, it's very slightly, but it's right. So I'm always aware of that. So what I do is I always loop back and start at the first 10, but I'll start getting quicker and shorter, just a quick button up, just to reinforce it for a second, then move on to the second 10. You understand what I'm saying this? So it starts to become more about reinforcing and then also moving on to creating emotional certainty and future pacing. But I will reinforce the airtight logical case, because I want to make sure that that natural decay was offset by at least a sentence or two. And it's really easy to do. And it also sounds really good. Like when you get this down, you're doing it the right way. It just, it makes sense. Like that you say, I understand, but let me say this. You know, one of the, I mean, it doesn't matter what the words are, but you say, you know, one of the true beauties is, and then you go back and just say one more powerful statement that reinforces the first 10. So that, and then they'll say, yeah, I get that. And they gut check. And again, as far as I go, I'll be there every step of the way, holding your hand, showing you all the ins and outs. My company is the best, blah, 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 blah. I'll hit you and say, hey, but just imagine in 6 months from now, and it's installed in your house, your electricity is being paid for, and rather than getting a bill from the electric company, you're sending them a bill and they're paying you each month. What could be better than that? So notice I loop back into that, a future pace, and then I'll say, let's do this. And I ask for the order again. You understand what I'm saying? I'm always in this, like I'm looping, I'm buttoning up certainty, and I keep asking for the order. Button up certainty, it's like a safe crack or cracks a safe. If he doesn't get it with the first go round, what does he do? Let's say there's 3 numbers to a safe, right? And let's say the first time he hits all 3 numbers, he listens and he pulls down the handle. If the safe doesn't open, he doesn't go and just start at number 3. He has to always go back to the first number again. Right. To crack the safe. Same thing in selling. All right?
Right. Okay. Just one more. It's just a small question. So does it make sense to you now, John? Like, okay, let's say they're not at a 10. Do I put another pattern in there to make them more certain before I introduce myself, or do I just?
Of course, you see that. It's about, if you're in the certification program, what I said is you cannot move forward. If I say, listen, if I say, you see what I'm saying now? Does that make sense? And they're like, not really. I'm not like, okay, good. Well, anyway, fuck you. But let me tell you about of course not. Of course not. Remember this. You don't move on to the second 10 if they're still doubting your product. People are not going to buy it. They're doubting that your product even makes sense. Then you become this disingenuous, what you don't want to be. That's like the hard charging, high pressure salesman that says, I know you don't really know about it. Just trust me, trust me, trust me. Buy, buy, buy. That's like the last thing you want to be. Rather, you take the intellectual approach, which is, listen, it makes so much freaking sense. I understand you're hesitant. I get that. I understand you're not ready to do this right now, but do you see what I see? Does it make, and they'll say, oh yeah, no, you have to get them to say, yes, the idea makes sense. I love your product. I'm not asking you to buy now. Like that's your mindset, but I want to make sure, because if you don't, then you shouldn't buy it. Like if you don't love the car or you don't like the system, why would I wouldn't want you to buy it. I only sell things to people that help them. I'm not here to shove something down your throat to make a commission. This is going to enhance every aspect of your life. And I want to make sure you understand that. So let me say this, you understand my mindset as a salesperson. I'm not, in my mind, I'm not trying to shove things down people's throat. I'm trying to make a case that's so compelling that they're like, damn, that's awesome. I'm not buying right now, but damn, that's really great. When I have them like that, when they say, I love what you have, I'm not ready to buy now, I'll get them every time. But they gotta like what I have. So that's why I spend a lot of time working on that airtight logic. I wanna make sure I spend the time to develop a way, and this is what the scripting is all about, is to take the time so that you can explain your product, good or service so well that when you're done, at least by the second time, they're like, damn, like, I'm not gonna buy, but that is a good fucking deal. That you gotta be able to do. All right,
thanks, man. Thanks so much. All right.
You got it. Next question. That was a good question. From Andre Jackson. Who's next?
Hello.
Hey, what's up, my man? Eric, what's up, brother?
How are you doing today, JB?
The king of solar sales. What's up?
That's right. Trying to be. So I had a question for you in regards to culture, because I know you had a large sales team, with Stratton and right, like through your whole career, essentially. So what were some keys that you guys worked on as far as strategies to build culture and make sure everybody, happy and wanting more all the time?
Sure. So I think there's certain things that can truly destroy a culture. And those are things that you need to avoid. And there's other things that actually work to build a culture. So, culture starts at the top. There's no real right or wrong. What should the culture of a company be? The culture is going to be a reflection of the management, the CEO, what they're trying to accomplish. And, obviously, that culture should promote success within the workforce, advancement. It should make people want to stay at work and work extra hours. It shouldn't, to me, the best culture is one where people don't even feel like they're going to work. It's like they just love it so much that it's like this mission that everyone is on to deliver something of value, and like everyone's so sort of committed to that mission, and that culture promotes that sort of sense of teamwork and family spirit and giving back and all sort of stuff, right? That's a really, really crucial aspect. Some of the biggest mistakes that I see is that, number one, is unfairness within a sales force, meaning people get promoted not based on merit, but based on connections and politics. That is a huge issue in a lot of sales forces. So if someone's friends with the sales manager or friends with the owner or runs with the right crowd, then they end up rising up quickly, while people that are actually far more talented and working harder get passed over. Like one or two moves like that is enough to really destroy the morale of the sales force and the culture. So I'm a big believer in a culture that's based on what I call a meritocracy, meaning it's about merit. It's people rise up based on merit versus a culture based on political affiliations and nepotism, where it's about family connections and who you hang out with at the bar after work, right? That's number one. Number two, a culture that's based on a zero negativity policy. This is one of the things that was instrumental to the success of Stratton, meaning that listen, I don't care. You could have problems. You could go into a slump, right? But one thing you can never do is talk negatively about the company or negatively about the management. That's cancer. And when you're dealing with any type of cancer, what do? You got to cut the shit out before it kills you. So we always had a zero negativity policy. Someone was caught talking negative, out. No second chances. Maybe at most 1 second chance, but that's like so it was a huge policy of no negativity. That was a really big aspect, okay? Another big thing is, whenever possible, promoting from within. Another huge part of a culture is you need to be really careful. I've seen this happen so many times in companies where they will bring someone in from the outside, and that person just blows up the entire culture and the team spirit, and they create so much dissension. So I, whenever possible, try my best to promote from within, to let talented people advance through hard work and loyalty. That being said, on the other side of that equation is something called the Peter Principle. And the Peter Principle means that people will tend to rise up to their level of incompetence. So I guess the simple way of saying it is the best salespeople don't always make the best sales managers. So be very careful when you take your top producers and say, all right, the reward for being a top producer is now you're going to be a manager. Well, guess what? All of a sudden, the guy becomes a non-producer because he's managing others. He might suck at managing others. So like the best salesman is not always the best manager, right? So that's a very, very big part of it as well. And then also there's things that are more like less obvious. Like for example, like the compensation structure. Like how are people being paid? What is the commission structure? Does that structure promote long-term hard work? Or is it one that allows people to work really hard for a few months and then just live off the existing fat of the land because they have a few accounts and then you're paid? So you have to be really careful with the compensation structure. The compensation structures that I always put into place incentivize people both for performance in the short term with residual income, but only if they continue to bring in new business. You don't want someone that can just open up 5 or 10 big accounts and then live off that the rest of their existence. That's it, right? Number 4 or 5 is one of everybody looking to help everyone around them. There's this idea that team spirit, helping everyone else. Like at Stratton and all the companies that I've ever managed, salespeople were encouraged to help other salespeople who were struggling. So it wasn't like, like someone else's success was, someone else's failure enhanced your success. It was about all people rising up together. So this idea of helping each other out. Next thing, big one, frequent and to me, daily meetings. If there's ever a sector of business or of a company that needs constant reinforcement to stay positive, it's sales. Salespeople are the most up and down people in the world. They're on top of the world one day and then the bottom of the valley the next day. So, one of the purposes of those daily meetings and that intervention was to make sure that people stay positive and we're not allowed to wallow in negativity very long. Those are just a few of the examples of things that you do to build a great culture. And also there's just the guidelines, what's expected, things like, how long are people expected to work? What time does everyone go home? What's the dress code? All these things that all come into, what's it like to work at the company? If you were going to design a culture for yourself right from the scratch here, and I know you're just getting started with this, right? The question is going to be, the overriding question is, how do I want my company to look? I want to, you want to show up and feel good about it yourself. You want to be happy being there. So it's got to reflect you, what your needs are, what your wants are, what your desires are, and what things that you favor and disfavor, and then take that and smooth it out so it applies to as many people as possible. But what you don't want is to build a culture that's going to only be for attracting other people, and then you hate it yourself. That's not going to be something that's going to make you happy. So it's got to be reflective of you as well. It's going to be reflective of you foremost, but also making sure that that is inclusive to everybody else too. All right, buddy?
All right, awesome. Appreciate it, JB.
You got it, pal. Next question. What's up? Who do we got? Who's this young, handsome devil? Who is it?
Oh, I'm on the. My bad, Jordan. How you been?
What's your name?
Yasu.
What's your question?
I got a question for you. What's the number one way that you warm up leads that you noticed are cooling down?
Well, so that's a broad question. Are these people that you've gotten in touch with once and didn't buy on the first time, or those that never you were able to get in touch with? What's the question?
That we've been working for a bit. Like, let's say they've had us do projections for them, and they are like, all right, let me think about it. At that point, do you just scrap the deal entirely, or is there, well, I guess it'll be the loop for immediate in-person contact, but if they need a week or two and you notice they're cooling off, how do you warm those back up, if at all?
So here's, So here's, listen, so this is a really, really loaded question you're asking me, because there's so much involved in this process that goes back to way before someone cooled off. The question really is it's one of sales cycle. What is the optimal sales cycle for any given product? How many times should you speak to someone or call them or be in person? What percentage of the people that don't close on a certain call never ever close, never buy again? I had one, for example, someone asked me a question on a different train, different trains around the world, right? Forgot which one was pretty recent. And someone said to me, maybe it was on this training last time I did it. They asked me a question like, what do I do with getting I have all these people and that, like, if they don't, I know it was, I'll tell you what it was. Someone posted it online and they said, what? And I'm glad this came up. Wow. I'm like, okay, I promised I would answer this. Okay. So I'm going to answer it right now. The question that someone asked online, what do you do when you call someone up who's a lead and the first thing out of their mouth is, listen, I'm really busy right now. It's not a good time. Can you call me back in a few days? Right? Yeah. And the person said, and then I say, sure, yes. And then I never, ever, ever, ever get them on the phone again. Like, that's it. Like, it's just done. Like, if they don't take the call right then, I never get them on the phone. Right?
Yeah.
So that's a very detailed statement, meaning it follows the problem from start to finish. So they say, yeah, what do I do with people who, when I call them up, they say they're really busy? In the absence of the second, let me finish. In the absence of the second half of that statement, it could be many different things, because if they say I'm too busy right now, and then, oh, no problem, let me set up a call for 4 days, and then 75% will take the call, well, guess what? That's not a very big problem, or you'd handle it in one way. But if these are people that you never get in touch with them again, that's it, it's either now or never, you're going to handle it in a very different way. So in the case, and I'll answer your question, I want to answer the other question first, and then I'll loop back to you. So in the point, if I'm calling someone up, cold calling, and I get someone on the phone and they say, listen, I'm really busy right now. Can you give me a call back? And I know, because I'm doing this for months, that I never, ever get them on the phone. Well, then what I'm going to do then is say, listen, I know you're busy. I'll get right to the point, and I'll just really power through it. Say, oh, no problem. I know you're busy. I'll get right to the point. Reason for the call today is, and I'm like literally back, because I know it, because what's the point of doing anything but that? So I'm going to say to them, listen, I know you're busy. I'll get right to the point. It's a very simple line. They said, oh, listen, I know you're busy, so I'll get right to the point. Name of the company or whatever it is. So that's one way. So the point is that you need to give me the full answer. What is really going on? How many times, like, what is this a problem from you already pitched them once, they didn't buy? And then are any of these people ultimately buying, or they're never buying? What's going on?
So let's say, like, I've pitched to them once and they're continuously, like, hopping on phone calls and we're staying in contact. Like, let's say I've done an illustration. They're like, all right, I need to read this over because it's only like a pre-detailed statement. So you try.
Okay, guys. So what's happening is, okay, so they're not, so what you're saying is that the problem you're facing is you're getting someone who will continue to take your call, but no matter how many, 2, 3, 4 times, you just can't get them to actually buy from you. There's something that's stopping them from buying.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, what are you selling?
So financial products.
What type of financial product?
So I do life insurance. We do a lot of investments. Do some kind of, like, on the very low end, we do like some healthcare stuff, but it's mostly life insurance / investing.
Mm-hmm. And what's the minimum amount that someone has to buy to open up an account with you? Like, what's the minimum commitment? This is like, you see, what needs to happen here? Let me explain to you that, it's the truth is that I can't answer you with any certainty because there's so many possibilities here. And what you're going to end up having to do here is going one by one. Maybe your pitch is just not right. In other words, maybe you're not creating enough logical certainty. You're not creating enough emotional certainty. Maybe you're asking for the order in the wrong way, or maybe you're actually going for the wrong thing. You're selling the wrong thing first. Maybe there's so that should be sold as a tripwire offer to get them to open up an account with you first on a small commitment. Then second, sell them into a more lucrative product that provides more value as well. There's too many variables here. And also it depends on how, are you doing well? Are you doing poorly? Are other people in your company doing the same thing, doing better than you? So there's a lot of variables. So it's like troubleshooting a problem here without knowing all the variables. You get it?
Yeah, I got you. So I normally do it one of two ways. People want X amount of value, or they only want to spend 20 bucks a month, for example. So you can put in 20 bucks a month into my software. It'll say this is the number that comes up. So that's how I normally do it. But usually if someone's looking to invest, let's say for their retirement, then they're down to put in, like, let's say 200, 300, 400 bucks a month, or, you know, XYZ, whatever they can afford. So I would say I'm somewhere in the middle. Like, I'm having success with some people. Other people are kind of just like really on the fence, like, I need some more time to look into this. And it's,
all right. And it's insurance, right? So when someone signs up with you, right? What happens if they sign up with you and they decide 30 days later they want to cancel? What happens then?
I normally just say fuck it and move on.
What's that?
I said honestly I normally just move on at that point. Like,
no. Okay, let me. This is really important to everyone. This is a really important exercise, guys. All right. Unfortunately, I can't. The whole exercise would take me a day to really solve this in full. But I'm going to give you an example of how I resolve this problem, because there is a solution to your problem. But you need to go to all the different variables. So the question really is, okay, is let's say someone signs up for your product, right? Mm-hmm. And let's say they find out that I don't like this. I want my money back. I want to get my money back. I want to cancel it. Can they?
Yep, every penny.
Every penny. So is there any risk if someone says yes and signs the paperwork and gets started, and let's say 30 days later they say, you know what, it's just not for me. How much do they lose?
Nothing.
Nothing. Great. That's what I figured, right? It's insurance. So what you need, this is a classic action threshold lowering pattern of, let me ask you an honest question, Jim. What's the worst that can possibly happen? Let's say I'm wrong. Let's say you sign up for the program, you get started now, you open up the account, you deposit $100, you put it in, and let's say in 30 days now you're like, you know what? It's just not what it's cracked. It doesn't fit in, and you get your money back and you lose absolutely nothing, Jim. Now that's not going to put you in the poorhouse. Now will it? And he'll say, no. You say, exactly, there's zero downside. But on the upside, Jim, you put in $100, right? You see what I could do. It's not going to make you the richest man in town, too. Am I right? He'll say, no, exactly. But what it will do, Jim, is show you that I know what I'm doing and can serve as a benchmark for future business that we can work bigger and better down the road. Because what I can do for you besides this one transaction in the way of X, Y, Z, D. I want to be an asset to both you and to your family for the long term. So why don't we do this? Let's start off with the absolute firm minimum. You put in X number of dollars. All I'm asking for is 30 days. If in 30 days from now, you don't like this, you think I'm wrong, you fire me as your insurance agent, we part as friends, you don't lose a penny. But believe me, Jim, that is not going to be happening here. Because if you're even 1/10 as thrilled as all the other clients in this program, the only problem you'll have is they didn't call you 6 months ago and get you started then. Does that sound fair enough? And shut the fuck up. Dude, like, this is so easy. Like, when you're in those businesses like you have, where you could have an action threshold lowering, it's like beyond simple. Because you just put them in a box. You get, number one, you have to get to say they love the idea. Yeah, no, it makes sense. Exactly. So number one, you must make the airtight logical case and get them to say it out loud. Yeah, no, it's great. I love the idea. You say, exactly. It really is a truly amazing program. And then you want to say, listen, if I've been your insurance agent for the last 3 or 4 years, covering your needs, making you money on a consistent basis, everything I told you to do worked out in the best way possible. I was your go-to guy for insurance. You probably wouldn't be saying, Jim, let me think about it right now. Am I right about that? And what's he going to say? He'll say, well, yeah, of course I would. Exactly. You don't know me. I don't have the luxury of a track record. Let me take a moment to reintroduce you see what I'm doing here? So what I've done is I've got him to say he loves the product. He doesn't know me. And now, then I'm going to resell the product, resell myself, resell my company. But before I ask for the order, I say, Jim, let me ask you an honest question. What's the worst that can happen here? Let's say I'm wrong. Let's say my compass is off. You're that one guy, you go into this thing, you put in your $100, and just to say, you know what? It's not for me. And you cancel the program, and you get 100%, and you might lose nothing. Is that going to impact your life badly? And what he's going to say? He'll say, no, exactly. On the upside, I'm not saying if you put $100 and you become the richest man in town. Am I right about that? I said, yeah. But what it will do is show you that I'm a guy that can take care of your needs and set your, you know what I'm saying? And then start future pacing the relationship. And then you lower your voice, say, all I'm asking for is this. You give me one shot. And just so you know, Jim, my commission on a policy like this, after I split it with the firm and the government, I can't put puppy chow in my dog's bowl. I'm not getting rich on this. The only way I make money is if you're really happy and you decide to work bigger down the road and give me referrals, because that's how my business truly goes. All I want is this. I want 1% of your confidence, 1% of your trust. I'll earn the other 99% by performance. Does that sound fair enough? And shut the fuck up again. And you just, those are the things you want to be doing, all right? And don't lie, just don't lie, don't exaggerate, just be honest, just create this. If you can set up a scenario where the guy's got no downside and only upside, why the fuck wouldn't he buy?
Exactly, yeah.
All right? That's it.
Good stuff, thanks.
Next question. You got it. We got Todd Shugart.
I muted you. What's up, Jordan?
Hey, Todd. How you doing, buddy?
Living the dream, buddy.
Everything good?
Yeah, it's all great. Hey, I got a question for you. So the 310s, love it. So I'm a digital guy, right? Own an agency. All my leads are coming either through lead form, cold email, or some sort of cold outreach. So they're kind of familiar once they either schedule the appointment or they hit the radar for us to be able to call them. So what I've done is I'm trying to figure out a way to use the 310s as the next step in between setting the appointment, either them doing it digitally or with one of my phone guys, and having this be the landing page where they have to go to this in order to advance to the next step in the sales process.
Very good. So this is very intelligent. Okay, so this is very smart. So this is interesting. So what are you saying, everyone? Is this is the essence, that the truth of what all these funnels, and it's still about the 310s. In essence, what you're doing is using a funnel to essentially pre-frame before you even pick up the phone. You're moving them higher on the scale before they even speak to you. And that's exactly what great landing pages and great funnels all told do. Let me tell you the way it works here. If you look at a funnel, you'll notice that, and whether they're one page or multi-page, what typically happens is there's a headline, a sub-headline, maybe a video, a little bit of verbiage, and then they'll say, click here to sign up, call to action button, right? And that's that. And then what happens? Not like that's the end, no. Then it goes again. They talk more. They talk about this. Then another half page, ask for the order, another call to action button. Then what happens? Nothing. They position it again with something else. You'll have 4 or 5 call to actions. Each one of those call to action is the equivalent of asking for the order. And what's happening in the middle are your 310s. Sometimes they're talking about the product. Sometimes they're talking about the company. Sometimes they're talking about their salespeople and the people that you'll be speaking to individually. So what you're doing there with those, every time they ask for the order and it keeps going, that's almost a loop into itself. So you want to be filling those with information that supports the 310s. Absolutely, positively. That's what all great landing pages do. If you go to my landing page, you'll see. If you really analyze it, you'll see what I do. I'll talk about the product, talk about myself. I talk about the team that stands behind the product, and then I'll just keep doing that again and again. So what you're trying to do here is come up with ways so that when you pick up the phone, they've entered at a higher level of certainty, right?
Yeah. They should be positioned to close at that point.
Another way to do this is also to get people, there's a very important thing you can do here is using consistency. Make them tick boxes, make them check things, make them click on to show that they actually are involved in committing to the process, not to buy, but that they like it. So you have them actually fill forms out. Every time someone fills out a form and gets something, it's another step in that certainty, buttoning up commitment. So whenever you can get them to fill out forms or answer questions that corresponds to certainty, it's going to weigh heavily in your favor. So definitely add that into these, whatever devices you use. It's always good to have them, you know, clicking on a page that takes them to another page that gives them another, every time someone clicks on a page, that's like almost an independent, it's like its own little time period. It's like this, it's like with sales, what you do typically is what works really well. So, you know, like, let's say you're selling door to door. You know, you meet someone by the front door, then you get in and you're in their living room, and then you move from the living room, take them into the dining room to the table. That's almost a second meeting. You change locations, and that actually is a second play. The same thing happens when you have that's why second touch points and third touch points keep working better and better. You do the same thing in one touch point by simply blocking out this page. They click, they go to the next one. That's a new commitment again. Make sense?
Yeah, I love it. I've got the page laid out. It's the second step in the process, but it's the first step before they get to speak to me. And then I've taken each segment of the 310s and put those into email and texting sequences.
That's it, yeah.
To just kind of keep trying to hit them.
Perfect.
You know?
That's great.
So by the time we talk, it's either I'm completely full of shit or you at least know who I am, right?
Yeah, and just, you know, what you're doing is you're just, again, it's a lot easier to take someone from an 8 to a 9.8 than from a 4 to a 9.8. So you're essentially, they're entering the equation, the phone call, at a much higher level of certainty. It's gonna impact, I mean, guys, listen to this, because this really has a big impact on closing rate, especially if you're managing a large number of salespeople and some of the salespeople aren't as strong. The way you offset some of those weaker salespeople, besides training them up, is also have people entering higher on the certainty scale. It makes everyone's job a lot easier. All right?
Thanks, brother.
You got it, pal. I'm in a bit of a rush today, guys, because my girlfriend is sick, but I got time for one more question still. So let's go to one more person here. Who we got? Kendall Netmaker.
Hey, how are you doing?
What's up, buddy? How are you?
Kendall from Canada. Good to see you. I have one question.
You too.
I'm a keynote speaker, and obviously a lot of the live events are on pause. I'm taking my stuff virtually right now. What advice would you have for me to, I guess, re-educate existing clients, but also new prospects about the virtual space?
Talking to the right man. So, of course, it was really interesting that when this all started, I had a very heavy calendar, and I watched in horror as one after the next, after the next, after the next canceled, right? And, you know, many of these were long-term clients who I'd spoken at their place of country, and just, they shut the fucking world down. It was like, it was almost like unbelievable to watch happen, right? In the beginning, my attitude was, all right, well, they're going to reschedule their events, and that's okay. Some of them were like anyone that was like suffering, like, for instance, now I understand I'm a paid, I don't do like, some people do, I'm not sure if you do free speeches or you get paid to speak. Many people do free speeches and they make the money by, once they're there, they use that, right? So for me, I always get paid to speak. So like I might get $100,000 to go speak someplace for 2 hours live, right? So all these people had already paid me deposits, like 50% deposits. And as their deposits were coming due now, like their second and third and final payments, I didn't force anyone to pay me. So anyone that I said, hey, I appreciate if you give me a partial payment out of good faith. Many did. Some said, listen, my business sucks now. No problem at all. And so you work with anyone, right? You don't because I could have, theoretically, I could have taken their money because, in the contract, it said if there's a default, I keep the money. But of course, I would never do that, right? But then something really interesting happened. I got a call from one of my clients that's like, all right, so they paid me, like they give me like $75,000 up front for 2 live events. Right, so they get a little discount. I charge $100 usually, so like 2 for $150, and there was some other stuff we were doing together. Right, that's a bit less than I usually charge. And they called me and said, "Hey, I think what we're interested in doing maybe is swapping this for virtual events. What do you think?" So I obviously am not under the illusion that I can charge the same amount for a virtual event that I can for a live event. Why? Well, A, there's no travel involved, right? I mean, so obviously, like today I received a wire today from Romania for $15,000 as a deposit against $50,000 to do a live event a live virtual event in Romania. So I cut my price in half. Right, normally it'd be 100. I don't have to travel, and it started with this one company. So then I had my head of sales reach out, and we started converting most people into virtual events, and people are loving it. You know what I'm saying? And so for me, what I'm doing is I'm bringing down my price that I normally would charge. I'm doing extra stuff as well, like little follow-ups. So you want to work with your clients. Like I'm in the position of I love what I do. I think you guys can all tell. It's not a struggle for me to speak. Like, it's not like it's like, I love talking, all right? And for me to do this once a week for you guys, it's enjoyable, it's fun, everyone gets to learn a lot, right? So if you're doing what you love, throw in an extra bonus webinar. So maybe you're going to give a 3-hour training and say, well, I'll give you a 3-hour training plus 2 30-minute coaching sessions or whatever you do to try to make the package more desirable. Cut your price by 50% to start. You're going to save all the travel time. And I got to tell you something, my calendar right now, I'm almost, listen, of course I would go back and do live events, but my calendar right now is not recovered. It's full. Like it was live events, yeah, but I'm doing in that department really recovered very nicely now by switching to these virtual events. And that's what you should be doing. All right, buddy?
Yeah, appreciate it. Thank you, sir.
All right, guys, listen, I love you all. I got to roll. I got people to see, places to go. No, I got my girlfriend actually was really sick, so she's feeling better a bit. I got to go deal with that, and we'll speak again next week. Chin up, everybody. Things are getting better. The world's opening up more and more every single day. Keep going. Keep working hard. Keep perfecting your skill sets, and you're going to end up far better off than before when all this craziness started. All right, love you all. Talk again soon.